Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and I like to do fashion DIYs. And I'm not gonna lie, today I actually had no intentions of filming or sewing anything, but I just kind of felt really blah and down today, and I know that making something pretty for myself really makes me feel better. So today is actually the shittiest day outside. It's the end of May here in Toronto and it's literally snowing. And here I am trying to make a summer dress for the nice weather that may or may not come. But that is what today's video is all gonna be about. I'm going to be recreating this dress that I will insert a photo of here. Honestly, I don't think this is gonna be too difficult, but you never know. And I am so excited about the fabric that I'm using for this dress. I just think it is so pretty and summery, and I'm really happy I picked up this dress from the thrift store before we went into lockdown because I was this close to putting it back, and I'm really happy I didn't because it's stunning. And I'm so happy that I can give it a second life in my wardrobe, and hopefully this turns out exactly the way I'm picturing it. So let's get started. Okay, so personally speaking, all this dress has going for it for me is the pattern. I'm not a fan of the neckline or the silhouette, so that's why I am going to change it. So for some reason, this dress has a zipper closure in the front, and I'm going to keep this zipper intact and use it as the back of the dress. But the first thing I need to do is separate the bodice from the skirt, which involves a lot of seam ripping. Once the top was separated, I realized there was an elastic in the waist that I decided to hold onto to reattach later. For my bodice, I'm actually using this self-drafted pattern that I have been working on and using on other projects, so I know how it fits. But I need to modify it a bit, and to do that I kind of took the lazy way out by just folding the pattern piece and eyeballing my adjustments, since I know the fit doesn't need to be too exact. Then I cut out my bodice front by cutting it on the fold and repeated the same steps to cut out the back two pieces. So now I have two back pieces that look something like this. I serged all the raw edges, then laid out my bodice pieces and realized I needed to taper out even more, so I pinned and cut that before serging. Then I attached my back bodice pieces to my front bodice piece. Next up, I wanted to finish the hem, which I did a simple single folded hem, then pressed it. The next step was to finish the side by folding it over and sewing it an inch to create a small tunnel. Next, I'm going to move on to the skirt, and I'm going to flip it inside out. The lining adds a bit of extra work, but that's okay. The first thing I did was measure out my top two gathered tiers with chalk and then cut them out. I decided to leave the bottom tier until later so I could finalize the length when I had a better idea of how the fit and style are on me. First, I went ahead and serged all the raw edges before moving on to reattaching that elastic I saved from earlier to the waist of the skirt. To do that, I marked it into quarters and did the same for the skirt, then matched the quarters. Then I sewed it together using a zigzag stitch. Then it was time to move on to the gathering in the skirt. To start, I sewed a gathering stitch to the lining and to the printed fabric and pulled the gathers and repeated the same process to the second tier. Then I attached the first and second tier together. I found the easiest way to do this was mark the quarters of each piece and try to evenly space out the gathers from there when pinning. Then I sewed. I repeated the same step for the liner. Make sure when attaching the liner the wrong side of the fabric is on the outside so the inside of the garment looks finished like this. Now I can get a better idea of where I want the final length to be, and I measured out 9 inches from the print fabric, and for the lining I measured out 7 inches so the lining won't show under the dress. I made sure to cut from the top to preserve the existing hem. Then I went ahead and sewed in my gathering stitch and repeated the same process. Then I attached my final gathering tier. Now that my skirt looks something like this, it is time to attach the bodice. I then marked my centers on my bodice and the skirt and pinned the two pieces right sides together and sewed it together. Okay, so I have since attached the skirt to the bodice, and then I did a little like semi-fit test and I hated it so much I have already taken it apart. So unfortunately I didn't get to film it because my first response was, I'm just gonna fix it. I also noticed that the skirt portion doesn't really flow the way I want it to. It's a little tight in certain areas and billowy in others just from the gathers being uneven. So I'm gonna go back in and kind of loosen the bottom 2 tiers to kind of give it more body. Yeah, so realistically I just have a lot of seam ripping ahead of me, so I'm gonna skip through the boring parts and I'm gonna fix the fit of the skirt now. After I fixed the fit of the skirt, I moved on to the bodice. I felt like it was too long and too wide, so I am going to slim it down a bit. Since I want this dress to have a bit of an empire waist, I took 2.5 inches off the bottom. Since there was a cutout in the back, I finished the part of the back that needed to be hemmed and tapered it as well. I also remade the small tunnel that I will have the strap come through. Then I attached the bodice to the skirt. The last step was to make the straps that are going to be in the back. In total, I needed 2 straps. To do that, I sewed together 2 very long strips and sewed them right sides together. Then cut the strap into 2 and used my loop turner to turn them right sides out. Then gave it a good press with my iron before attaching one end of the strap to the dress and use a safety pin to feed the other through the tunnel to create the bodice of the dress. Okay, I don't want to give the full reveal right away, but this is how the bodice has kind of turned out. And the back, I just did like a tie-up feature, so it's easy and adjustable, and I do have a little bit of alterations to do just here. There's like excess fabric, and because it's like a 3-tier gather dress, the 3rd tier I just need to do a little tweaking too. But aside from that, I would say it's done, and it's honestly, I think it's cute. I definitely struggled quite a bit with the fit as I was working with it, and at one point I debated on making it a 2-piece set, but then I realized I would have to alter the skirt a lot more than I already had to. So I just tried to keep it as simple as possible. But yeah, so I'm just gonna make the much needed alterations and then I will do the final reveal. And yeah. Okay, so I realized I never filmed an intro for this video, so if you're with me for this long, then thank you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It is something a little bit out of my comfort zone. I'm not usually someone who gravitates towards gathers, but I figured if I am going to wear something like this, I might as well make it instead of spending the money on a style that I don't know if I would actually wear otherwise. So yeah, that is all I have to say, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!